Hello everyone, we are students of Catholic High School, and today we'll be talking about the issue of sustainability in Singapore. Join with me are my classmates Kaiser and Javier. So for the first issue, we have decided to discuss about the issue of sustainability in water supply in Singapore. So as we all know, water supply in Singapore is quite limited because we have limited land space and therefore we have also very little reservoirs. So what do you think Singapore should be doing about?
I mean, Singapore, although is of course an island, right, surrounded by sea and water, right, but most of the water that surrounds us is salt water, so it's not really drinkable. But so our freshwater supply is really quite limited. Then but Singapore has taken steps to ensure our water security with our 4 national taps. I'm not sure if you guys know.
New water import from Malaysia and all that.
Yeah, these steps taken to ensure Singapore's water security, right, are quite crucial in building the stable water supply for Singapore. I mean, in Singapore, as your experience, right, our tap water is relatively clean, right, and can be drank straight from the tap, right. It's a luxury that we often take for granted. So,
talking about taking for granted, right? Do you think like that's a major issue that should legit be like addressed?
yeah, definitely it's a major issue because the Singaporeans, right, as Singapore gets more wealthy, right, Singaporeans tend to take more things for granted. And do you think that our water supply is clean, right? That means other country water supply is clean. So it's like something we take for granted. Then we like to take long showers and have our elaborate like water displays for our wealthier Singaporeans. So Javier, what do you think?
Okay, so I think that Singapore is doing well in ensuring that all of us have a sufficient amount of water. Yeah, and as we all know, new water is in place so that in a few years we do not need to take water from Johor anymore. In a few years' time, we will be able to fully sustain ourselves with new water and provide ourselves with water so that we don't need to rely on other countries and we can rely on our own.
But you really think that's sustainable, man? To my knowledge, new water only makes up like a very small supply. And
speaking of import from Malaysia, you all know the recent water disputes with Malaysia, like cause in our old agreement, right, we agree with Malaysia that 1 gallon of water will be 10 cents, right, but that didn't factor for inflation, so that kind of like anger Malaysia. So that also gave Singaporeans like a wake up call, like to ensure our water security, because if Malaysia cuts us off, right, like recently Malaysia cut us off from chicken, right, but we are still relatively stable because we have many imports.
No, but I think this is quite different in the sense that Malaysia makes up so much of our water supply, right? And to my knowledge, we get like the other sources of water supply, other imports are not as impactful as Malaysia. So if Malaysia cuts us off, obviously we'll have very little water.
Okay, but based on the government's words, so right now new water provides 30% of our water usage. They said in a few more years, if we trust the word of the government, in a few more years, the new water will be fully sustainable and you will be able to factor in every single Singaporean's demand of water.
So a lot of Singaporeans, right, we don't really know what goes on behind the scenes. Like we only take our water usage as like the water we consume, but a lot of the water is actually used for other things, like the manufacturing of clothes and the raising of animals, livestock for our consumption. It also takes a lot of water, and that's something that we don't actually factor in when we do in our calculations of water.
Yeah, and also some people don't really trust new water. They think the water might be dirty, so they don't actually trust the new water. They buy their own source of water. So this new water thing might not be agreed by all citizens.
No, following the new water thing, right, I think technology is actually advancing at an exponential rate, right? So I want to pose a question to you guys. If you think that new water can overtake or actually replace the flow of water that comes into Singapore.
Sure, but it'll be very expensive, very, right? Because you said about the exponential growth of technology. Technology is also very expensive. We have to take that into account. And
I think I agree with Lincoln as well, because Singapore is quite a small country and we rely on many other countries for imports and goods. So if we were to self-sustain for ourselves, it requires quite a lot of money, I would say.
Yeah, the following that, right, I would just like to probe further. What do you think should be the government's the best action that the government can take from this point onwards to ensure Singapore's water security?
To me, I think education.
Why? How?
Like,
How does
education of like education of of children in school, because children from young should already know that water should not be taken for granted. And even though many families in Singapore can afford water, right? However, and therefore children will often take water for granted. But then obviously water supply should not be taken for granted. Singapore has limited water supply, and other countries are also suffering from water constraints. And children in Singapore need to know how the value of water and how precious it is. And when they grow up, they wouldn't waste it like anyhow.
I mean, there's definitely one front of the discussion, but for a long-term solution, right, the implementation of your education method, right, will definitely take longer than if we go and improve our water filtration technologies, or go and increase our water supply with Malaysia. So what do you all think of improving our technologies? Yeah. So also, right, I would like to probe further, right, that the technology I'm referring to is actually water filtration services, and the catchment of water and the improvement of our water supply and our water chain.
Could you repeat the full question again one more time?
So what do you think should be done to allow technology to what do you think should the government do to help the development of these water filtration technologies?
Okay, so I think we can bring in more experts about this in this course. As you know, Singapore education level is quite high, so we can ask for people that are more professional in this.
And also, I think like water filtration plants, right, it will take a lot of space. And Singapore is land scarce. We already know. The land area in Singapore is very scarce. Water filtration plants obviously take a lot of space. We are filtrating gallons of water at a time. So obviously, we will need a lot of land space. So how do you counter this land scarcity problem, Kaiser?
So right now we are trying to move forward on the. Let's finish up our discussion on the water scarcity issue first. So the water scarcity issue, right, I believe, right, it can be resolved by a three-pronged approach. So firstly, is definitely what you said earlier, the education. I think education has been one of Singapore's top priorities in the recent years, and the efforts of the government has shown as Singapore is OECD's top education system for like a few years already, tying with Finland last year. And so education is definitely will definitely help. But to elaborate on your approach, I think that apart from education of the younger generation, the older generation also need to change their views on water usage, because whatever the older generation the values of the older generations have, the younger generation will also take. So what's the point if we have our education, right? Education of students, right? But after the 8 hours in school, right, they go back, right, and their parents teach them a different thing, or they practice a different thing at home.
True. Then do you think that we should like punish, like for example, like increase water prices or something like that, to like discourage parents from like also wasting water lah?
I mean, water prices have already been increasing, and that's the approach that the government is trying to make. Sorry?
Wait, sorry, could you repeat that again?
Yeah, I think
Okay, no, but like we must also take note of the water policies. Increasing water prices will also make people unhappy, right?
Yeah, I think the increase of water prices does not really have that much of an effect on our wealthier Singaporeans, because I mean recently, right, I don't know if you all noticed, right, the prices of water have actually been increasing, but our water prices per month, right, for an average household, right, is what, $5, $30, and this is like is nothing to our average Singaporean, right? Because our gross income and our GDP is relatively high in the Southeast Asian region, even in the globe. So increasing water prices is definitely a solution that might increase our income inequality throughout Singapore, which is another topic we'll touch upon later. The income inequality is a topic that we'll touch upon later that is actually quite important in the distribution of water, because sometimes when the government increase water prices, right, what it does, right, it doesn't stop people from actually using water, but it allows the rich to continue using the water, but the poor cannot use as much water. So it definitely helps to reduce overall water usage, but it's not a sustainable solution.
Okay.
So the other prong approach that I'm talking about is definitely government policies, because government policies, right, have the most say in Singapore. In Singapore, I mean, as you all know, it's a fine city, right? It's a very fine city, and our government has taken actions to ensure that our policies match our objectives. So I don't know if you all know any examples in your experience.
Okay, guys. So there are some suggestions that the government can do to help prevent this water wastage. As you know, Singapore, we waste quite a lot of water. Myself as a Singapore citizen, I have
relatively wealthy.
I would say we are above average Singapore citizens, and I have a lot of friends.
Just stop.
I have a lot of friends that actually don't really care about water being wasted, and like they just use water to play and have fun, when all this water could be used to like help the poor people in Singapore. Yeah, I apologize for the interruption. So anyways, there are a lot of kids that don't really care or think about how water is, how important water is, and and there are people around the world that actually struggle to get water. So I feel what the government can do as well to ensure that not a lot of water is wasted. I think government can invest some money into ensuring that a good enough technology is used, whereby less technology whereby less amount of electricity is needed to ensure to bring about like a large amount of water. So I feel government can find a way to create technology whereby use lesser electricity and will produce more water. So in that case, I feel that less water the amount of money being used into water will decrease. So like for example, a family.
Why do people have to help you?
Hey, then desalination. Desalination is a water method to acquire water from salt water. Obviously, you need to heat up the salt water to get water, right? And that requires a lot of energy. And you're saying like technology can make this process like use less energy but acquire the same amount of water. And I'm interested to know more. So what do you think? How do you think technology can help in this?
Okay, so as you know, desalination is heating at extreme temperatures, and these extreme temperatures can bring about like a lot of greenhouse gases, when they burn it, and it's actually very unhealthy. It's very bad for the environment as well, and it's also very expensive. So I feel technology can be implemented like to prevent the amount of money being used to burn the water at high temperatures, and also technology can be implemented to prevent like the greenhouse gases produced from desalination. So I feel that especially now in a constant evolution of technology, everywhere now technology is getting more and more advanced, and I feel that such technology can be implemented for such causes, so that the amount of water being wasted will decrease, and also it will in turn make the environment a lot better as well.
Oh, nice. Actually, makes sense. And because with technology, biology, if it works, right, then it'll be very good. Because right now, desalination isn't really sustainable, like in terms of energy, like usage. But if you say technology can help this, then desalination can be a very sustainable method of getting water, especially in Singapore, because Singapore is surrounded by seawater and it's an island. Yeah. So Kaiser, about your three-prong approach, right? I noticed you didn't bring up like the four national tabs, right? So like, why do you think that is not like part of the approach?
I think the last thing, right, and the most important thing, right, is to increase the citizens' awareness of like water usage. So when people understand like the consequences of action, right, they are less likely to do it. Like, you know, in the case of water, right, people know that they need to survive, and they need to function daily. So they know that their actions will actually result in water prices increasing, which is what Singaporeans hate, and also the lack of water, maybe. Then people will try to use less water. So education is definitely one of the more important approaches in allowing people now. Then I think people should also have some personal responsibility, like they know not to take that long showers and to conserve and reuse wherever they can. Like some things that the people can do are like to firstly take shorter showers, and to maybe like after you mop the floor, right, use the water they use to mop the floor to flush the toilet or something like that. Then maybe like you can use like the water that you use to wash vegetables to water the plants after that. Yeah, I feel this is definitely important. Speaking of the four national tabs, right? The four national tabs are new water,
Desalination, imported water from Malaysia, and rainwater.
rainwater. Oh no, I mean in these four national tabs, right? Although they work hand in hand, right? They do not produce proportional. They do not produce water that's proportional to the amount of energy required. Like, although Malaysia is the easy way out, as we can get water from the mountains of Johor, right, it's definitely not sustainable for the long term. So that brings into the question, how do we encourage sustainability in the same time that we're developing our water security, right? How do you ensure that we do not have adverse effects when we do so?
Or not really, like it doesn't really pollute the environment. The only thing I can think of is like technology lah. And like as Javier mentioned, and we can see that technology does have adverse effects on the environment. You can see that technology has increased the overall carbon emissions, and therefore resulted in global warming, like rapidly advancing global warming. The situation is just getting worse and worse. So I guess that's just the adverse effects of using technology. And obviously there are disadvantages, there are advantages. So what really matters is that we measure the trade-off. So the pros of using technology: we reduce energy needed for like energy consuming processes such as desalination. And desalination uses all our energy, right? And to acquire energy, we also release carbon emissions, right? For example, when we burn fossil fuels, we release carbon emissions into the environment, and that also results in global warming, right? So regardless of using technology or not using technology, carbon emissions will still be high, right? In processes such as desalination. So it doesn't really matter.
Speaking of which, right, I believe that there's another adverse effect of like let's say the government plans to increase water prices, right? So what is stopping people from stockpiling water and storing a lot of water in the house lah? So I don't know if you can explain to me this.
What do you mean by stockpile water?
Like they just try to use as much water as they can before the water prices increase. Like they store water in.
I think. Okay, to be honest, I don't really hear stories of that, but if Singaporeans really do that, then I think it just shows like the appreciation for water. Like they are just wasting it.
So
honestly.
is it feasible that the government increase water prices, or do you suggest an alternative approach?
Okay, I think, Javier here. I think it is feasible. We could use that approach. Although, I mean, for both approaches that I'll be talking about, there are downsides and good sides about it. So, as we mentioned earlier, if we increase the prices of water, I feel that every single Singapore citizen would value the ability to get water. Ability to get water and having water, it probably be more valuable to them. While this will ensure that everyone, the poor and all the way to the rich, from poor, middle class and the rich, will ensure that they will save water and not waste water. While the rich will still continue their life, because no matter how much water can increase in prices, it will never really increase that much that it will affect how the rich carry on with their life. However, the increase in water supply can cause the poorer people to struggle more, because water is a necessity. Every single human being needs water to survive. We need the use of water for almost everything, like mentioned earlier, like even like cooking, cleaning, showering.
But then aren't the poor people also more, like poorer people more vulnerable? Because the water prices increase, right? Then wouldn't the poorer people like stockpile water? Wouldn't they be more tempted to stockpile water compared to the richer people?
Okay, so for that to happen, right? I feel what the government can do. The government can only tell everybody at the moment that they are about to change the water price, so that nobody will be able to stockpile the water before the water price increases. This will definitely cause some outrage from the citizens.
But changes cannot happen overnight. It requires legislature, like it has to pass the parliament to increase the water prices. So what you're saying is not feasible. It's just not feasible. So apart from increasing the prices of water, right, which has some obvious problems like increasing the income inequality and causing people to stockpile water, right? So what other methods do you think the government should adapt to ensure water security in Singapore?
But then y'all mentioned it already. Like y'all say the main main solutions are education and technology, right? Javier, you mentioned technology. Kaiser, you mentioned education, right?
Yeah.
So those are the main solutions. So I just asked the ultimate question. Because both methods are long term, right? You agree? Education is long term. It takes a long time to cultivate the kind of values in like children these days. And also technology, it also depends on the overall evolution of technology in the world, right? And that is like long term. So let me ask you the ultimate question. Do you think right now Singapore is sustainable in like their water security? Right now.
I feel at the moment Singapore is quite sustainable, because Singapore, we have the 4 taps, national taps, and we have our own, and we are building our own sustainable form of water, like new water.
But then you say the main solutions are education and technology, which are both long term. So how is that sustainable? Because you have to wait a long time. So right now it's obviously not, right? Is it?
Yeah, but right now we have good relation. The government ensures good relationship with many countries, so we can import our water.
True.
Like at this very moment, we have even our food, our goods, and our water, we import from many different sources. So let's say one country, something happens to one country that they cannot import anything over. We have many other countries to rely on that can provide their sources over. So we can really, so I feel that really ensures Singapore's sustainability in resources, and that's what makes Singapore at the moment so far strong in resources and not lacking in anything, due to our good relationship and most of our stuff being imported from various different sources.
Speaking on Javier's point, right, I believe that my answer to this question, to Lincoln's question, is no. Because as you all can see from the recent Malaysia, they stopped the imports of chicken, right? When a country faces crisis, right, like shortages, right, they will definitely stop their imports, right? So let's say there's a global water shortage. How will Singapore ensure security? Since Javier mentioned that all our water mainly comes from imports, right? So he believes that it's secure as
And
many
also-
countries have import, right? So I would like to address this question back to Javier. So what happened in a global shortage that can cause countries to stop the imports of water?
But you see, if the whole world does not have water, then I think everyone is doomed.
Okay, yeah. So I think Kaiser has successfully rebutted your point. I mean, like, so right now Singapore is not sustainable, because obviously we have good relations, yes, but in the face of crisis, any sensible country will cut off their water supply, right? And therefore Singapore will as you said, doomed, right?
But what are the chances that the whole world face such a water shortage? You know, our Earth is made out of
And
70%.
no,
of
but
water.
like not
Yes,
only
but
that.
as mentioned previously, most of it is salt water, and as you said, the countries that are most well prepared, right, to face these kind of scenarios, right, are the ones that is mainly.
And also we have to talk about the import of water, the countries who import water. To us is mainly Malaysia, right? And there's a reason for that. Because how can you, okay, so let's say we have good relations with America. How do you import water from America? Like we have to import water from Malaysia because there's a direct drain, like a pipe, right? You can't like import water from America. It's simply not feasible. So honestly, I think the argument is leaning towards it's not sustainable.
Okay, guys, but right, Kaiser says salt water, right? There's such thing like when I bring back my point earlier, like desalination with the better technology. So
Yeah, but technology is long term.
Yeah.
So it's not sustainable right now, but in the future it will be sustainable. Do you agree that?
yeah, I feel in the future it'll be sustainable, but okay, at the moment, it's still alright. Judging by how everything is going on so far, I think the sustainability of water is still good. I don't think anyone can really say bad about what's happening with our water supply right
basis
now.
of your argument, right, is saying, right, that the chances of a crisis happening is low, and therefore Singapore is secure. But everyone said that the chances of COVID
Yeah,
becoming-
right now it seems okay. You know why? Because
Nothing has happened
Nothing has happened to Malaysia yet. You know, what if Malaysia faces a dry spell, a drought?
Right, Singapore also face a drought.
Probably.
Yeah, both countries face a drought. So how? Malaysia has to protect its country's interests as well. So why if they just stop imports to Singapore?
So is it truly secure? Is it truly sustainable?
Okay, then it's partially sustainable, I would feel, because we do have make efforts into ensuring that we have our own supply of water when if the imports don't happen. Like example, why would Singapore create new water then if they just think they can rely on import goods?
New water doesn't provide the Malaysia.
With our own reservoirs that
Most of our water comes from Malaysia, around 70 to 80%.
Okay, so you say 30% and whatever rainfall, right? So what? 50% of our residents get water and 50% doesn't if a crisis hits.
fair point. I guess Singapore is not sustainable.
So we come to a general consensus that the work has to be done on Singapore's water sustainability is definitely far and bound. So let's move on to our next topic, which is another problem in Singapore.
Okay. So now our podcast will be addressing the issue of sustainability in land use in Singapore. And as you all know, Singapore is land scarce. We have very little land, but we need to use it for like so many like stuff, right? Like we need to use it for recreation, housing, and just now water filtration plants, all that, right? So about the issue of sustainability of land use in Singapore, how do we maximize like the land use like for the amount of like use we need to use? Yeah.
Okay, so as we know, Singapore is one of the smallest countries in the world, and we have about 5.6 million people at the moment. So it takes quite a lot to ensure these 5.6 million people have whatever they need to make Singapore a good place for us to live in. So, and the minister also mentioned that we want Singapore population to increase to up to 6.9 million people. So as you know, Singapore has very little land. So we use quite a lot of land for housing due to the amount of citizens in Singapore, and these housings. That's why there are houses. That's why the government implement houses like HDB flats and condominiums, because they are high and do not take up that much land, and also can host. Many people can also live in that building. So I feel it's a very smart move that the Singapore has many condominiums and HDB, so that many citizens will be able to live in those buildings. So we know that the HDB and condominiums are cheaper, so more people will be more attracted to buy a HDB flat. And since Singapore has very limited land, landed housing in Singapore is very expensive. So that means there will be less people that want to buy landed apartments in Singapore, and more of them will want to buy a HDB and condominium.
I'm not sure. I think to answer this question, right? So what was the question again?
I wanted to ask about the how do we maximize the land use for the amount of users we need.
I believe to answer this question, we have to go to the root cause of it. Like, what has caused Singapore's land scarcity? I mean, apart from being a small country, because I think one of the causes is, of course, private housing. Private housing, like for, let's say, like 6 families to stay in a private house, a whole family, like 40 blocks, 40 stories could be built on top of that. Like, because Singapore doesn't have land space horizontally, right? We have to resort to like vertical housing, like HDB. And yeah, so I just want to get your thoughts on it.
But I feel like private housing is also a necessity, like landed properties and all that, because despite like using more land, right, it's also to satisfy the needs of like bigger families, or like families that are more wealthy.
Okay, to rebut your point, so I feel that when you say that, but at the moment when new HDBs and condominiums are built, the government has made it a point to make it a lot bigger. So now all the HDBs are actually really big, to ensure that definitely 6 people will be able to live, 6 or more. Because me personally, I went to a show flat recently, and I saw a HDB, and I was really, really shocked about how the size really increased compared to when I was a kid and I saw a HDB. When I was a kid, when I saw HDB, it was really small, and I was thinking, maybe only 2, 3 or 4 people maximum can live in it.
I mean,
but now when I see the HDB, it's like
I feel the government tries to cater to many different family sizes, because it's well aware that family sizes are of course getting smaller, right? And the HDBs are also getting better. So government has made efforts to try to encourage more people to live in HDB housing, as like more facilities are being built then it's more convenient. Like personally, right, if you live in a HDB estate, right, usually there will be a lot of facilities and shop houses and markets that are close by for you to like shop and to eat there, right? But I mean, in landed estates, right, you don't really see much of this kind of like markets or shop houses. But I mean, of course, there are some malls that are being built but the main thing is that it's more close-knit. It's more close-knit. Like the HDB community is more close-knit.
Okay. Adding on to the point, I feel that Singapore also really encourage people to live in HDBs more, and by increasing the pricing of landed properties. In Singapore, a landed property can go up, usually starts around millions and can go up to tens of millions. While compared to countries that have a lot of land, like Australia, their landed properties that are really big is like less than $1 million. So I feel Singapore has done that to ensure that more people live in HDB housing rather than landed property, and to preserve space in Singapore.
So you all are like arguing that landed property, all that, not a necessity, but I feel like it's to satisfy the needs of the wealth, and also like the wealthy, and also like you have to take note that HDB, all that, right, is under like government property. It's not actually yours, and some wealthy people may not like be very like happy with that fact, so they often opt for landed property, all that, and I think one role of the government, one purpose that the government also have to fulfill in this kind of policy is the satisfaction of like all social statuses of people.
No, the land is not yours, but the apartment is yours
for a limited amount of time. But some people, like especially the wealthy people, they want to like pass down their wealth and stuff, right?
Yeah, so we are not saying totally remove landed properties. Look, in Singapore, we still have landed properties, right? And most of them are being filled by the rich because they feel that the landed property, an HDB apartment or condominium does not supply their needs. So there are still, but the government made it more expensive so that less people will want to do it. So there will always be people that want landed properties, and the government don't mind that. They just want to ensure that more people will opt for HDB and condos so that there's enough land, to supply everyone's house.
I'm not sure if the government has really done this right, but I think right, if the government can limit the amount of private properties that are being built in Singapore, right, the government can more effectively control land and as well as ensure that there's no housing shortage.
No, but I'm just saying that there should still be landed properties in Singapore. It shouldn't be completely removed and replaced with HDBs, right?
Yeah, of course. That's true because there will be people that always want landed properties, and government is not doing anything to like take away all landed properties. It's just that government is trying to make more HDB because it's more land efficient for the people to. And because a small amount of space can host a lot more people, and it's a lot more sufficient and efficient.
It's more sustainable in the long run. Because Singapore, although we're an aging population, right, which is a topic we will touch on later, we still experience a steady rate of population growth. Because our death rates are also not that high, right? Then, because as the population grows, right, more houses has to be built. The demand of housing will definitely increase. So by like let's say right one family, only like 6 families can live in the space that like 6 landed houses take up, right? But like 40 families can live if it's like a HDB or something like that, or hundreds of families can live. So it's more sustainable as in like to cater to Singapore's growing population.
So when we're talking about sustainability of land use and like maximizing the amount of land use, right, I guess I think we should discuss about competing like land use. We have housing, we have recreational purposes, commercial purposes, industrial purposes, and like others, I guess. But so we have to rank like what is actually like more important for the limited amount of land use in Singapore, housing or what? I mean, we really agree that housing is important.
Singapore being an economically driven country, right? Because we have no natural resources, right? So we definitely have to rely on our technologies to earn money lah. So I believe that this should be one of Singapore's most important priorities, if not the most important. But also Singapore also has another natural with the double quotation marks resource, which is humans. So if Singapore can effectively manage and control the space of that and cater to the needs of the people, right, I believe that hand in hand with the technology, the humans and the technology can propel Singapore to greater heights economically.
Yeah, I agree as well. So Singapore has to really factor in a lot of factors to ensure that the land is being used properly. Like as well, we know that Singapore is a very economically driven country, so we need land for like places to like factories and all sorts of places to ensure that there's a constant improvement and sustainability of our technology and our economy and our to produce like food and resources to ensure that such things can keep to ensure that all Singaporeans have enough resources to survive. And also another thing, so recently I talked about how Singapore has like a very very high population. There's 5.6 million people. In fact, and compared to the amount of land we have, it's actually quite little compared to the amount of land. I mean, it's a bit much. There's a lot of people compared to the amount of land we have. So Singapore has to be really, really smart in factoring the amount of land being used. So what I think personally is, I feel that firstly Singapore must prioritize the living conditions of all Singaporeans. So ensure that there is enough or more, there should be more than enough houses that can host all Singaporean citizens, which at the moment I feel Singapore has done well in that, because Singapore don't really have that many homeless people, and and those people that actually can afford houses do have a home, and there is no struggle or much demand to search for houses because of the smart moves that Singapore has made to ensure that there are enough land for a lot of for people to live, and there's also enough land for such economic activities for the factories, so that Singapore can live sustainably and develop well. So yeah, I feel the two main priorities to use Singapore's land, I would say, is economically, commercially, in any other industrial uses, and like houses. Besides, Singapore don't really have like farming areas for which takes up a lot of land, because farmers, and it's a very slow and long process, take up a lot of land. In fact, Singapore uses like factories, which takes up lesser space and it's a lot quicker as well. So from these type of examples, we can tell that Singapore is very technologically advanced.
Okay, you say all these are our priorities, right? Like housing, all that, and commercial, industrial, all that, right? Purposes. But I'm asking, like, how do you rank them? Like, what if all of them are they equally important, or like is there like a rank?
I feel that with such things, we shouldn't be ranking them, because if we rank them, like example, if I say, this ensuring that economy is more important, so we should make sure that it's always number one. But if let's say it causes people to not have enough houses to live in, everything will fall apart. So we cannot say rank them. All of them are equally important. So we have to really like compromise with each other, to ensure that all of them can fit into each other's things. And I feel that Singapore has actually done well in this day and time.
But you're not saying like we should all give them equal land, right? Like some should have more than the others.
Of course, I feel for Singapore's like reasoning, there's no really more than this or that. There's rather than more, because Singapore, we don't really have much land. We can't really say, you should have more for this, for economy purpose. You should more for living purposes. Other countries can, because they have like a lot of land. They can actually compete. While in such a small country with such limited land, I feel that there's not really more, rather than ensuring that it is enough for everything. And besides, we said earlier, Singapore wants to increase the amount of population. Our minister Wang Yikang, Minister Ong, said that he wants Singapore to have up 6.9 million citizens. So we have to really be efficient with the amount of housing being used for land, because of the amount of people, and also like manufacturing food and resources, the amount to ensure that all Singaporeans can live in such environments.
Okay, so it's really just about interdependence, compromise, and smart planning, which you think Singapore have done.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to your point about the farming bit, right?
Yeah.
So as you know, we should link this thing to like food security. Singapore really know it's a fact. Singapore's food security is really not that great.
Yeah.
That's real. Most of our food comes from imports from other countries, right? So shouldn't some land be moved to farming? And right now there's like vertical farming, right? So obviously we can also produce food on a large scale through vertical farming without using that much land, right? It's also about smart planning.
Okay, so I remember there's like a place in Singapore where it's a building where people live, and then at the top attic there are like people that plant, so they can get their vegetables, So I feel that Singapore can actually do that as well, because there are many houses like HDB and condominium. At the top there's like nothing, not much. I feel that what we can do, we can actually use the top. We can use we can grow our vegetables at the attic of the buildings, So I feel that Singapore can do that, Every single HDB at the top. But of course, not anybody can just walk into it. Only restricted amount of people can enter the building. But Singapore can actually do that, because it is okay. Firstly, that many hundreds of families can live in that small little area, and you can grow the crops as well. And because it's very high, right? It gets maximum sunlight. It gets maximum sunlight, and you can get in the plants can be healthy and grow well. Okay, maybe I can rephrase something. Okay, so remember I talked about how Singapore is actually doing well in ensuring that all the land is, used for very important purposes. I feel that maybe Singapore can actually increase the land available for food production, in fact, because based on data sources, only 1% of Singapore land is available for food production. I feel that maybe more of it can be brought into food production rather than maybe houses or economy.
But I want to counter this point about you saying that Singapore is making a good land use. So upon further research, right, I found out, right. Okay, so you said the priorities are commercial, industrial, housing, right.
Yeah.
But then, upon further research, I found out that most of Singapore's land use is actually on recreation. 19% is on recreation. So do you really think it's good? Because you didn't prioritize recreation as a priority, unless you're saying
I
recreation.
also like to add on to a rebuttal. So, what Javier mentioned is that Singapore should allocate more land to food production. But how much more land can we allocate to food? Like, you know how much land space it requires to have food production, like to rear livestock and shit.
Okay, yeah, that's why. Maybe I feel that Singapore could reduce the amount of land if that amount of land is being used for recreation. Rather than recreation, they can use it for like housing or economic purposes. Because I feel recreation is more of activity to enjoy rather than a necessity. Yeah.
Okay, so like just now you say
existing facilities.
okay, but
remove it.
just now you say Singapore. You say Singapore did a good job, but then clearly the data shows that they are putting more land into recreation. So are you still saying they are doing a good job?
At the moment, they are doing a good job.
But at the moment, the recreational land use is the most.
I feel the reason why Singapore is having more recreational land use is because of the demand of the people rather than what they actually have to use. People want to play, so they keep asking more. So the government is being pressured by the citizens to have more land used for recreation rather than wanting to actually.
But some of them are also private one. They are not by the government. For example, like private golf courses or that, right? So do you think that should be removed? I mean, the government doesn't really have the right to remove it since it's private. But if they could, do you think they should remove it, or do you think it should stay?
They can remove it.
Kaiser.
I think mainly right. Singapore should not have as many golf courses as it does have because this should be repurposed to provide sustainable development in Singapore's case. Like, because we are a land scarce country, right? If people want golf, right, they can go overseas, right? I mean, although this will definitely reduce the income Singapore gets from tourism, right? But Singapore's main income was never from tourism. It is from trade and so I don't think Singapore should focus so much of its land on tourism, which is targeted at like golf is targeted at tourism and the wealthier people, right? And I think Singapore should focus on development first rather than recreation. So yeah, I agree that.
So I guess Singapore is not really doing a good job now.
Wait, speaking on Kaiser's point first. Okay, so when you say reduce the amount of golf courses, how many are you limiting it to? How many golf courses? How many golf courses are you limiting it to? One, but there are many golfers in Singapore, and even with the amount of courses we have in Singapore right now, everybody still struggles to book a spot to play in the golf course. So if you're reducing it to one, how do you think everybody gets to play?
Golf is that boring. No offense. Golf is that boring.
Yeah, but that's just your personal opinion.
That's not boring. Golf is that boring. And not saying that golfers shouldn't be allowed to golf, right? They have overseas option. Doesn't mean they have to golf in Singapore.
Yeah, but what overseas option? What if they have to work in Singapore? How can they work and traveling is inconvenient?
And we also have to think from the perspective of the tourists from other countries. They might want to come to Singapore to golf, right?
No, I addressed this already. I said tourism is not.
Yeah, okay, but you said people travel, so
but they also domestic.
So in order to do something that they love, they cannot do it in Singapore. They have to travel to a faraway country just so they can play golf. But they cannot do it in the comfort of their own country. Having only one golf course, right? That means that barely anybody can get to play, and that will cause a lot of complaints. And by you saying golf is boring, that's your own personal opinions.
Yeah,
some people treat it as a hobby.
That's not my point.
Then what is your point?
My point is that golf course should be repurposed because the potential use of such the comfort of one person, right, should not be should not cater to the should not overtake the needs of the general populace. Like people that play golf, right, they usually don't understand like the general populace, the needs of the general populace. And not saying that people cannot golf lah. Like there are golf ranges, there are mini golf options. There are many golf options for people. Like doesn't mean they have to go to a golf course to play golf. What?
Okay.
People want to go golf course. Maybe they want to simulate like how the professional golfers are like, and it's fun.
It's the actual sport. It's like business. Like.
So I believe, right, that even though the golf, right, is indeed one of the sports that Singaporeans like to play, but it doesn't cater to a majority of Singaporeans. Like as you can see, right, not many Singaporeans play golf. Like it's a small select group of people that actually enjoy golf. Like why shouldn't we put more basketball courts then? Because people like playing basketball also, right? So by that logic, we can also argue that there can be not enough basketball courts and people can complain also. Why are there not more volleyball courts? Since volleyball is taking more presence in Singapore, why are there not more volleyball courts?
So what you're trying to say is just we should cut down on recreational land use through taking away golf courses, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I feel not only golf courses.
Yeah,
everything.
there's-
I feel there's a lot of.
I feel because recreation, right, we can refer to recreation as like Sentosa, all this, right? These are Singapore's key tourist attractions. If you remove them, what will happen to the future of Singapore's tourism industry? The tourism industry has a stable grip on Singapore's economic development. Like following the multiplier effect, right, where a dollar spent by tourists is shared by many industries in Singapore, right? Like for example, when a tourist comes to Singapore to visit Sentosa, right, he not only has to pay for the attractions at Sentosa, he has to pay for transport, for accommodation, for food, everything. And this can bolster Singapore's economy as a whole. So I believe that even though recreational activities, right, take up large amount of Singapore's land space, right, only the ones that don't serve a pivotal role in Singapore's tourism industry should be removed. Like golf course. Who comes to Singapore for golf? Like I mean, there are a few people but most of them only come for business.
But then there's also the needs of the locals, right? I mean, there's also the need of the locals, I mean, I'm not just talking. I'm not just talking about the golf courses. I'm not just talking about the golf courses. Obviously, there's a small select of people, right? Small select group of people that play golf, right? But you say you want to cut down the recreational land use, and to do that, we must not only take away the golf courses, we must also take away and sacrifice some other recreational activities.
What other sports take up a lot of land?
I think mostly is the golf courses. The golf courses take
Mostly, yes, but you also want to cut down.
Other sports?
We also want to cut down, right? So we also need to cut down on the, other recreational
cut
activities.
down on Singapore's key tourist attractions.
Yes, I'm not talking about key. It's not just about the key tourist attractions. We must also consider the needs of the domestic people. They don't come for tourism.
Yeah.
For example, and I'm not just talking about the golf courses though. Like just like any recreational activity, if you want to cut it down, we must consider the needs of the people also, of the locals, not just golf courses.
The golf courses, right, are only used by a very
Yes, I'm not talking about just golf courses. I'm just talking about like recreational activities in general. Yes, you want to cut the.
I just want to cut the golf courses, like specifically the
Oh,
golf courses,
okay.
because they take up a majority.
You must really hate golf.
That 19%, right, we have more than 50% of that being taken up by golf courses.
I'm not sure about that.
No.
How is that justifiable?
I don't think so.
The data.
I don't think that the data.
Like 10% of recreational.
That problem is
land
right.
used for golf.
The problem is right. The golf courses, right, they're so like desolate. They're so desolate. There's no other use for that. Like let's say our other attractions, our like Sentosa, they serve as restaurants.
Okay, but I'm just talking about recreational activities in general. The demand for recreational activities is not only factored by the amount of tourism or the demand of tourism. It's also factored by the demand of the locals. So we must also consider that, no?
I believe the demand of the locals should be targeted towards housing and not towards recreation.
But you can't control that. People enjoy recreational activities. That's a fact.
Fair say, but I believe that as Singapore finds more strategies, right, I don't believe that all recreational activities should be taken out of Singapore. Like when Singapore is getting more land through land reclamation, right? Then Singapore should not focus further on recreational activities, like the development of recreational activities. So I believe that, of course the needs of locals matter, but I believe that.
So do you really think that recreational activities are really not that important? Or do you think it's still important? Our government is smart. There must be a reason behind why my recreational activity as of right now is the most has the most land use for it, right? There must be a reason. Why do you think that? Or do you think our government is just
I think
smart?
Singapore has shifted its focus from being a tourism-oriented country in the recent years to one of stable economic development through manufacturing and our technology industries. So I believe that Singapore, following this shift, right, has moved its focus away from recreational activities and focus its development on more sustainable developments that can provide long-term economic development to Singapore's.
Okay. So let me just summarize your point lah. So you're saying the last time the land use, or as of right now, the land use is so important. Is mostly used for recreational activities. Is due to the reason of the importance of tourism. But right now, since it's moving towards more economical source of income for Singapore, that's why we should be removing some of the recreational activities.
Yeah, I agree. Cause Singapore, why must the government really cater to what the people actually need rather than what the country needs? Why must the country really cater the needs of the citizens rather than what they feel the entire country need properly, sustainably? So I feel that Singapore should add more land to economy and housing rather than recreational users, because recreational users can actually be done like Kaiser say overseas, while in Singapore there's only a place to live rather than.
Okay, so but then Jiver, you say it's good job, then why you like?
Yeah, I changed my point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we all agree that we should all agree that the government should cut down the land use for recreational.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not sustainable, the land use in Singapore right now, because we are using 20% 19% of our land on recreational. So it's obviously not sustainable, is it?
At the moment it's still sustainable, but if we're looking into long term, where Singapore wants to increase its population to 6.9 million people, it probably won't be sustainable, because more people means you require more land for housing.
Yeah.
So to cater to this extra 1.3 million people, I don't think Singapore can really bring that much land for 1.3 million people to live in. So I feel that rather than using it for recreational purposes, they could use it for housing.
But wouldn't you agree that with more people, like 1.3 million increase of the people, right, then wouldn't the demand for recreational activities also increase?
I think when faced within the choice of housing and recreation,
Yes.
more people choose housing.
Why would someone what? Tell me, people gonna live in a basketball court? Why would someone choose that? If they are, would you rather struggle?
Okay, but often people don't see that.
No, but when we look into complaints given to government in the recent years, right, complaints haven't been circled around lack of recreational, but the increase
Because
in
right
housing
now
prices,
there's 19%.
the increase in housing prices, that's a main issue in Singapore.
Inflation.
Yeah, the main issue in Singapore, because land is scarce in Singapore, so the housing prices
But
increase.
as Javier said, it was about compromise. As of right now, there isn't complaint, because a lot of land use is used for recreational. So obviously there won't be complaints, right? Because there's sufficient facilities. But if you remove that and you bring in more housing, then people will stop complaining about housing, am I right? They will start complaining about the recreational activities. It's a compromise, as Javier said.
You are assuming bad things about people.
No, there's demand for everything. It's not really bad. It's just
Yes, but you must measure the demands. The demands. Okay, think about it. Housing and play.
No, but I'm not talking about that. Undoubtedly, obviously, housing has more priority, obviously.
yes.
Yeah, but if we increase the housing and we cut down on recreational, people will also complain.
Okay, so would you rather increase the recreation?
No, I'm not talking about... Dude, undoubtedly, right now, no one is complaining about recreational, right? Because there is sufficient facilities.
Yes.
We remove these facilities and we bring in more housing. People will stop complaining about housing, yes, but they will complain about recreational. It's a cause and effect.
Okay, think about it.
It's a
Wait,
trade-off that Singapore
guys,
has
think about it. There will always be complaining, no matter what. Think right now they're complaining about housing prices. When we increase the amount of houses, they'll complain.
Yeah,
about
so it's a compromise. That's what I'm
yeah,
trying to say.
so there will
Then-
always be complaint, but the government can just don't care because this little.
But you
amount of
can't
people is
don't
a
care.
minority.
The government
Yeah, you
cannot.
can't don't care.
You can't don't care.
What, the government's gonna decrease the prices of all these houses right now?
No, but
the
you
government
can't not
is
care.
taking action. What? The government's purpose is to serve the people.
Yes, the policy of the
Yeah, but
government
it's like
must
a
consider the demands of everyone.
It's like a minority.
It's not a minority. Everyone
Everyone
needs.
is living.
Everyone needs recreational activities.
No, I don't think everyone really needs recreational activity.
Everyone needs. It's a
There are many
demand.
exercises that you can do at home at your own comfort.
It's not about exercise only. There are recreational facilities can include bowling, all these, right?
Yeah, but why is that a priority?
I mean,
It's
I'm
not a
looking
priority.
for a complete removal of recreational facilities. It's just
Yeah.
saying that we shouldn't focus.
Yeah, but with
on-
less,
not a priority,
but with
that's what I
less,
say.
but with less people also complain.
Okay.
I mean, it's a willing trade-off that the government
Yeah,
has
I
to
guess
Yeah.
it's a willing trade-off, but I guess we
Because
should
the government has to
like the government should also consider that.
Yeah, government has to think. Would they, if they want more more land for recreational users, they will have to cut down something, right? So more people, can they cut down food manufacturing? Nope, they
But-
cannot.
but-
Housing, can they cut down? Nope, they cannot. What else can they cut down?
All I'm
Are they
trying to
gonna
say is that-
borrow the land from
All I'm
Malaysia?
trying to say that
They
there will
can't
be
do
a
it.
there will be a trade-off for increasing the use of a land use for housing. There will be a
Everything is a
trade-off.
trade-off.
Yes, there will be a
Yeah.
trade-off, and I think the government should expect that.
Yeah.
And obviously
yeah.
there will be unsatisfied people.
I'm pretty sure the government already knows. There will always be unsatisfied.
There will be.
Yeah, it's just you have to fit into the majority and the future.
But
of
with right now the
country.
land use is actually like
it's pretty good right now.
it's not
because-
bad. Cause right now I think we can all agree that the housing is able to shelter everyone and everyone that can afford it, right?
Yes. Despite
Despite-
having a lot of complaints about how expensive houses are, I think that most people are actually
Yeah, and we are still able to have 19% of our land used to recreational
Yeah,
activities.
yeah,
So right now it's still okay. But I guess recreational activities can be a willing sacrifice. It's all we're trying to say.
So recently, right, the issue of the issue of sustainability in housing development. So with Singapore having temporarily resolved the trash problem in Singapore, right, which is by using offshore landfills, right, our islands offshore as landfills, right. I believe that this also will pose a future problem as more trash is being created and the landfills will eventually be filled up.
But I think,
So what are your thoughts on this?
but I think in the future there will be technology, right? In the future there will be technology to obviously to like substitute the land needed for landfills.
Okay.
There will be technology to clear waste more efficiently, and obviously it will be a better method.
Yeah, from what I've seen online, right, I saw something where the Singapore clears landfills by throwing all the rubbish into like an artificial sea that they created. Like they throw their landfill inside, so that it doesn't really. So Singapore don't really have much trash.
Ready? So I think regarding your point, Kaiser, like you say in the future it will pose a problem, but I don't think it will pose a problem, because of technology, because technology will evolve in the future also.
So what you're saying is that we will. What will technology do to help us resolve this problem?
Obviously, the evolution of technology can also introduce more ways of clearing rubbish more efficiently.
Definitely, but will technology increase at a rate where it will help us? Would it improve at a rate that it will not fill up our landfills before we find technology that can dispose waste?
I mean, this although this technology is really introduced, like there's this I guess it shows like an example of how technology can help us with our waste like there's the compressor, right? It compresses all the rubbish together into like a square block, so it doesn't go everywhere, right? And therefore that makes it more efficient to dispose it, right?
The Pulau Ubin landfill, right, already uses compressors too, like cause the waste is burnt and then compressed, then put into a landfill. So
Wait, why my phone?
so how would
My phone like that.
how would
Wait, it's spoiled.
how would
Our recording's gone. Yeah, but all I'm saying is this is just an example that technology can help us in efficiently disposing waste. Obviously, the need for landfills is still important. We still need it, right? That's a fact. Because if not, we won't have somewhere to dispose our waste. But I think in the future the need for landfills will also decrease. Not decrease, but at least we can use it longer for a longer period of time instead of running out of land in the landfills. Yeah.
So the issue of these landfills, right, is that eventually it will be filled up, right? So do you think with new technology that we could probably find in 50 years, we will find the technology before our landfills is used up?
Yeah, I think right now technology is rapidly advancing, and obviously landfills will be eventually used up. It's just about how we are able to prolong this process with land use. With technology. Yeah. Okay, so Kaiser, I think I agree with your point that landfills will be eventually used up. I mean, it is limited land, obviously, but I believe that technology can prolong this process, and I think that's what really matters.
I agree.
Yeah, I think definitely, but we as a country, right, we have to manage our waste, right, to ensure that the rate that we're filling up these landfills, right, is not more than what technology can help us dispose of.
So let me just bring us back to the question. Is Singapore's land use sustainable?
Yes and no.
What? Like right now?
Right now is yes, but in the future, if we continue down this exact same path, answer is no. But I am confident in the government that when the population increases and anything happens, right, there will be a change. There will be a change to ensure that Singapore will be sustainable.
Yeah, I think I also agree with this point. As of right now, I think government doing quite well. It's just that in the future, with changing times, for example, with changing times, for example, Kaiser mentioned more waste thrown in landfills. For example, the population increasing, all that, and the fact that we have to cut down on recreational activities to accommodate this population increase. I guess in order for land use in the future to be more sustainable or to be sustainable, the government really has to also change the composition of our land use.
I also agree with both of their points, and I believe that it's not only the government's responsibility but also the people's responsibility. So with that, let's conclude our section. This concludes our section on land scarcity, and we'll move on our next topic.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's move on to our next topic, which is social sustainability. So social sustainability is a measure of how sustainable Singapore's development as a society is. Like when it comes to this aspect, right, Singapore has often had the honor of being called a gracious multiracial society, and a country that's quite democratic even. But how true is this statement? To what extent is this statement true? So firstly, I would like to start off the conversation by starting with a prevalent topic in Singapore, which is quite a wealthy nation, which is the income inequality between the wealthy and the poor. So the question is, how can we continue to grow the wealth and power of Singapore and its citizens without increasing the gap between the rich and the poor. So, anyone like this question?
Yeah.
I mean, there can be like minimum wage, right? I mean, I think that will help to improve the wealth of the poor. And for the wealth of the rich, I think obviously it will grow. Like, and that is like on the rich people themselves, right? Like, obviously the government should be putting more aid and resources to the lower income groups of people rather than the higher income groups of people. And higher income groups of people will grow the wealth themselves. So with more resources put into the lower income group of people, such as minimum wage, I think that can be the first step to increasing the wealth of the poorer people, while the growth of the...
But with what you said with a minimum wage, right? So, but a minimum wage, right, one of the main problems that it poses, right, is that it will increase the price of goods. So, when companies are forced to pay employees more, right, where does the extra cost come from? It gets transferred to the consumer. Right? So, how will Singapore combat this increase in prices of goods?
Yeah.
Well, these prices of goods, I think that there can be further discounts given to those poorer people. So there can be...
No, but that's not my question. My question is, when a minimum wage is implemented, right?
I think it should be expected. When the government implements a minimum wage, right, I think it should be expected that goods will increase. I mean, we all know, like, following your logic, the prices of goods will increase, and when the government implements a minimum wage to help the low income people, I think we as citizens of Singapore, we should also support this policy. I mean, obviously there will be unhappiness, but after a while it should settle down.
Also speaking on how the rich should help contribute more, right? So, what are your thoughts on Singapore's progressive tax system? You know what's progressive tax system?
We know what is progressive tax system.
Yeah. Okay, so I think Singapore has done well with the progressive tax system so that the rich don't get too rich and the poor don't get too poor. That's how I feel. That's how Singapore, we don't really have that many people that are very poor, that we don't really have many homeless people, I would say, because government do their best to support the people. So when they tax the richer people, some of the money can be provided as funds to the
for policies such as like the minimum.
But as a wealthier person, right, wouldn't you feel that this is unfair? Like,
well, it's a implemented rule. Even right now, the government is doing it.
no, wouldn't you feel it's unfair, and wouldn't the wealthier people have complaints against it?
Of course, from the perspective of the wealthier people, it is unfair, but from the general scope of things, and if
like, it's money that you earn, right? So why should you pay more to enjoy the same benefits?
I think of course addressing the idea of tax, right, is you pay the government because for the right to live in this country, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that could be like a thing while also providing the poor people.
I think it's obviously from the perspective of the high income people that it is unfair. I mean, coming from a high income family myself, I often hear my parents complaining about the increase in tax for the wealthier people, right? However, I think if we have to consider the general scope of things and how this money can go back to help our society, I think the progressive tax system is actually quite fair.
Fair enough. But what, for example, if you're a government lawmaker, right, what would you say to a wealthy person that is unhappy? Like, usually the tax money is used to like pay for things that the government does, right? Like maybe like education, housing. But if you stand to gain the same benefit but need to pay more, then wouldn't you find it unfair?
I mean, as of right now, Singapore, the amount of tax given is the percentage is the same for everyone, right? Just that when you earn more, the more money you give.
No. The percentage increases
Increases
as
based on
you
the-
get wealthier. Yeah.
Exponentially,
But I mean, currently, has there been much complaint made to the government on the situation?
That one I'm not exactly sure about it, but in the when a similar tax policy was
I mean,
planning to be implemented in the US, right, there was a lot of complaint.
I mean, of course, complaints, but I guess they should understand the intention behind this. Our intention is to reduce the income inequality, right? Bridge the gap between lower income groups and high income groups. And to understand why this is a necessity, we must look at the issues that it will present if the income gap is big, or is wide, right?
Yeah.
They must understand the issues, and I guess some of the issues can be like discrimination. There could be monopolization, right?
Yeah.
All these factors that will obviously result in a societal downfall and a lot of social discord. So obviously, looking at things from that perspective, it does seem very fair that the progressive tax system is acceptable. Yeah. So, do you have anything to add on?
Nope.
I mean, it can be it's like an act of charity as well for the richer people.
I guess.
It's like they are like helping the poor people, and besides, like if they don't do that, right, that means the government has to use their own money to like provide for the poorer people if they want to ensure that there's like a smaller bridge between the poor and the rich, and that will in turn like affect like the what the government can provide for the country as well.
Okay, so let's bring this back to the question, to the ultimate question. Is Singapore sustainable in trying to bridge this income gap? What do you guys think?
I would say it's quite sustainable because I feel there are very like crazy rich people in Singapore, and there are also like very like poor.
There are crazy rich people in
And
Singapore.
there are, but like there aren't like a lot of people that are really really struggling.
There are. I guess
There are people
we
that
Not
just
many
don't.
compared to a lot of other countries.
We just
that are
don't really
doing, like,
see-
Yeah, you just don't really see.
We just don't really see. But so right now, I think it's not. Like based on data, I think so. If I've seen correctly, between the top 10% of income earners and the bottom 10% of income earners in Singapore is about 12,000, which is a considerable amount of money. So I'm not sure if Singapore is sustainable in doing so. Kaiser, what do you think?
So I do believe that the rich should be entitled to spend their money the way that they want, but I also am a firm believer of a fair and just society. So the initiatives that the government takes, right, to promote income equality, right, I believe they are sufficient. Like, I'm not sure if there is much more that can be done. Yeah.
Okay. Shall we move on to our next topic of social sustainability?
Yeah. Let me just do a short prelude on this topic.
Okay.
So the next topic we have under the general topic of social sustainability is of course race. So Singapore being a multiracial society, right, has one of the most diverse ethnic groups in the Southeast Asian region and maybe in the world also. So the question is, Singapore being renowned as the multiracial capital of the world, right? How true is this statement? Like, with instances of racial violence taking place in Little India and Chinatown, so how true is this statement that we are actually a multiracial society, and how should Singapore promote multiracial society and the peace without breaking the peace?
Yeah, I think everything is relative. The reason why we are called multiracial society is solely based on the fact that we are definitely more homogeneous compared to countries like the US, where there are where there are police officers shooting black people, right? So I think it's relative, and that's why we have that name, right?
Yeah, like I feel compared to like other countries, we are actually the better ones, but then like we can still improve, you know?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, Kaiser mentioned there are riots, right? There are racial riots in Little India. There are disagreements, even just casual racism, right?
Yeah,
I think that is
More so, right, coming back to the topic of income inequality, right, many have observed that the Malays and the other minorities in Singapore, right, happen to be less well off than the Chinese. And I was thinking if you all have any thoughts on that. Like the causation and the possible impacts that may have on our society.
employers, I guess. Like causation, I guess. Maybe perhaps the employers could be of the similar race, and that's why. Yeah, right. That could be a causation.
Yeah, like if someone wants to interview two people, right, and then if they are the same caliber, and the interviewer is Chinese, and then the two people he's choosing is a Chinese and like a Malay, for example.
I mean, I guess that kind
I'm
of.
pretty sure he would choose the Chinese one.
Okay,
Singapore has
that kind of
signals
claim.
in place to prevent racial discrimination in the workplace. Like, you can't just hire someone because of their race, right?
No, but if they're both the same caliber in skills.
Yeah, no. That Singapore has that thing in place, so you can't hire based on race. So, do you think there are other problems at play? Like, why are there more Malays going to IT and like getting lower for PSLE? And I mean, some people might say it's racist to assume that Malays are IT, but then based on statistics, right, it's more common for Malays to go into IT than there are Chinese, and so I'm not sure if you all think it's a systemic problem, a cultural problem, or what.
I think everything adds up.
Okay, I think it all adds up. It's a multivariate factor. First of all, I think Chinese parents
They're stricter.
Because
they got the culture, the Asian, the Chinese.
and there's nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong with the parents of other ethnicities to be more laid back. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's just the characteristic.
Because there are also many Malays that do very well.
Yeah, I guess, and that's just of their own caliber. That it's fine to be laid back as parents, I feel, but I think it's quite common. I think everyone has seen that Chinese parents are more likely to be stricter and more academic and prioritize more on the child's academic results. Yeah.
So is this a problem or what do you feel?
I mean, there are like people from other ethnicities that do well, so I guess it's not really a main problem.
There are more Malays going to IT and the lower academic streams, while the Chinese are the main the top academic streams are dominated by the Chinese and the Indians.
I mean, it could also be on the fact that there are SEP schools, right? Many of the SEP schools are usually elite schools. We have Catholic High School, we have Hwa Chong Institution, but then there are also non-SEP schools such as RI, and we see a high proportion of other races there besides the Chinese.
Yeah, like most elite schools are actually SEP schools. And
SEP
schools, they promote Chinese a lot. So I don't think the Malay and the
there's a
Indians
lot
will want to go to a SEP
yes,
school.
obviously, and also okay, I have a Indian friend that told me that he wanted to go to Raffles Institution just because of the Chinese culture in a place like Catholic High, for example. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with the Chinese culture. However, it might not suit it might not suit the other ethnicities, and they may opt to go for other schools, and some of them might not be elite schools because of the fact that most elite schools are SEP schools. Yeah.
So should the government take steps to change that or what?
I think I think there should be an equal amount of elite schools or like schools that are better than the usual neighborhood school.
The schools that are elite, they're not determined by the government. It's determined
Yeah.
by the school's performance.
I guess, yeah. So
Yeah.
and usually the SEP schools are the ones that are more elite. So obviously we see a lower proportion of other ethnicities there. And perhaps that could be the reason why they are not.
Should SEP schools be abolished?
No.
No, of course not. I mean, I feel what they can add like a elite school for Malay and Indians.
But
Similar to
But wouldn't that be a bit racist?
yeah, that would be a
no,
bit.
we cannot.
Wouldn't
Yeah,
that be
stand out a
racist
bit,
for
ah,
the Chinese?
cause-
No, not really. Okay, let me rephrase that. It's like something that relates to their ethnicity more.
I mean, it also
Relates to their race more.
it's also some of it
No,
is
but
also
the set
related.
schools are created because they were originally created by Chinese.
Yeah, no, but
So if
some
you
of it is
create a
related to the fact that there's the majority population in Singapore is Chinese.
School, if you create a school that is only for Malays or only for Indians, isn't that racist to the Chinese? And how can you ensure that the school will be an elite school?
True. So I think because of the fact that most elite schools are SAP and the fact that usually other ethnicities are not keen to go to schools that are SAP schools, they are not getting as much educational opportunities that that only elite schools get, right?
Maybe that's a problem.
That is a problem.
So do you believe in the equality of opportunity or equality of outcome?
Opportunity.
Equality of opportunity. So
Yeah.
if we give the Chinese and the Malays the same opportunities, but the Chinese end up doing a lot better than the Malays, will you say that's a fair and just society?
Yeah, I'll say that's a fair and just society.
That's just their problem.
Because
Because I feel like
in primary schools, right, everyone starts on level ground. Right? Everyone has to take the PSLE. So that's already an equality in opportunity. Right?
But
So-
it could be the choice one because the reason why they are not going to SAP schools is because the culture doesn't fit them, and that's why even though they are given the same opportunity, some people are not. The other ethnicities are not keen to take it, right? Because the culture doesn't suit them. They could have gotten a PSLE score that qualifies them to go to, for example, Catholic high school. I'll use the old PSLE score because I'm from the older generation, I guess. For example, Catholic high school, 254 or 253 is the PSLE score, right? Another ethnicity person besides Chinese could have gotten like a score that is good enough to go into Catholic high school. However, they might opt not to go into Catholic high school because the culture is not accommodating for them because it's a SAP school.
So you have to like choose a.
Yeah, and they might choose like a, for example, not as academically higher T score school. Right?
But would you say it's like a cultural problem? Because it's not really a systemic problem, right? Based on what you're saying, it's not a systemic problem, right? Like the government has no prejudice against Malays, right?
Yeah.
So, would you say that it's the culture of the families that the Malays grew up in?
A bit, I think that kind of influences it a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So how this can manifest itself in also income inequalities, right? Because the Malays have lesser education, lower level of education, stop payment. And then the Chinese will always stay at the top of society and Malay will always be at the bottom of society. So shouldn't there be a change?
What? Since when does Malay have a lower and
It's statistically proven, right? The Chinese in Singapore earn more than the Malays, on average.
But I think it's not really a race thing. It's more like.
But I guess, I think changes should be made. I think basically, at the education level, school changes should be made. Not say like Javier suggested make a school specifically for the different the other ethnicities besides the Chinese. But I don't really agree with this. But I believe that there should be some changes to the education landscape to accommodate the other ethnicities who also have the potential to perform academically. Yeah. Changes made could be like obviously not the abolishment of the SAP. I think SAP the SAP is a very good initiative and movement policy. But perhaps like more resources could be given to schools. Not more resources, but like more aid or like like just give more resources to schools that can also accommodate the other ethnicities, for example non-SEP schools. So give them more resources so that they can also have the amount of educational opportunities that elite schools enjoy. So the students there who are largely from the other ethnicities can also enjoy these benefits because more resources are being given to that school.
Yeah, and I feel like those better schools with like those better schools, they have like better teachers as well.
Yeah, I guess, and also they can afford more opportunities. Like they could afford a paid program to enrich the students in computer science or something like that.
Yeah, usually the government will fund more to those better schools.
Yeah, and so I think the government should kind of try and focus on the less elite schools that can accommodate the other ethnicities to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your take, Kaiser?
Definitely, but the problem is, right, Malay families, right, I wouldn't say this is like, I don't see this like this doesn't apply to every Malay family, but Chinese families, right, are more like kiasu because of their culture, like they are immigrants. They come from immigrants, right, so they're like hardworking naturally, right. Then the Malays, right, they have always been here, and like they don't really find the purpose in studying. Like usually most of them, they just want to like
I disagree with that.
like lepak.
I disagree, bro. What? I kind of disagree with that because I think it's been quite long since the Chinese arrived, and I also think that the other ethnicities immigrants are also equally as hardworking. And they also have come, and therefore the tradition is also here. And I think the kiasu part of Singapore is not just limited to the Chinese. The kiasu culture is actually part of the Singaporean identity, and that's not limited to the Chinese.
Yeah.
So
You are racist.
But
I get that they are more laid back, in a sense, because Chinese parents do have a infamous reputation of pressuring their kids to do well academically wise. But academically wise is not the only way you can be successful in Singapore, right?
But how come there are more Malays playing soccer at the one?
How come there are more what?
There are more Malays playing soccer.
I don't think that's statistically true. I think
During PSL period.
I think that's a claim. I don't think that is statistically proven.
Yeah, but I think that's more racially
Motivated. Yeah. I think that is a unbased claim.
Yeah. What do you think, Kaiser? You think
I wouldn't say it's statistical evidence, but rather
Okay, if it's not statistical evidence, I guess we
Anecdotal
should scratch that. Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
I mean, it's a personal experience, is it?
so I think we have addressed the issue, and I think we have suggested the solution. So, since the issue is still quite prevalent in Singapore now, I guess we can still say that racial inequality is still at large.
Yes.
However, I think we must also consider how Singapore has been. We must consider the progress that Singapore has made thus far.
Yeah, and like
I mean, compared to the riots that happened in the 1900s.
Malaysia and Singapore merged.
Yeah, the riots that happened. I think
Those are
Singapore has
a
done
lot
well.
worse,
Yeah.
Like we implemented like a racial harmony day and such, like these type of events really bring out all the races to learn about different cultures
And commemorate the riots and stuff. Right?
Yeah, I think that's what set apart Singapore from many other countries.
And also the fact that somehow the multicultural part of Singapore has somehow ingrained into our Singaporean identity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Singapore has made progress and has done well thus far, and I think they are going in the right direction.
Yeah, for
However, there is still some racial inequality present, and hopefully, as long as Singapore, I believe that as long as Singapore is doing what they are doing right now.
But then, how will we resolve income inequality among the races?
like they might give more opportunities to the
similar
Chinese.
opportunities, and then it will boil down to there will obviously be inequality, but it will not be inequality among the races anymore because they are given.
No, but then how will we fix the statistic? Like the statistic is that the Malays earn less on average than the Chinese one.
Right now it is, but I feel, and we already addressed why it is, right? We already address the causation. But I believe when they are given equal opportunities already, in the future when they are given equal opportunities, then it wouldn't be an inequality among the races anymore. It will actually be inequality among the different abilities, and that is their inner ability themselves. It's not really a stigma or discrimination factor.
So, in a fair and just society, right, should equal outcomes be observed?
Yeah.
Of outcome be present.
Equality of outcome.
What do you mean by
In a
that?
fair and just ideal society, should equality of outcome prevail over the equality of opportunity? So they can be given the same opportunities, but the outcome can be different. Or they should be given the same. They can be different. They given different opportunities, but the outcome is the same.
The outcome is based on what they do with the opportunity.
Yeah, I think.
So it doesn't really matter.
So which one's more important?
The opportunity.
I think the opportunity matter the
because
most.
I feel the outcome.
I think as long as we fix that, there won't be any presence of racial discrimination.
But what if, right?
And anyone who ties it down to racial discrimination is or are like kind of unbased too. So because Singapore has done its part, or will do its part.
But what if it continues, like, cause it already takes place, right? So
Then there will not be inequality among the race anymore. It will just be among the different abilities.
So at which point will Singapore know that it has fixed racial inequality?
At the point where we can all agree, all races can agree that they are all given equal opportunities. And obviously that is a tough task to achieve.
Definitely.
So I think we can all agree that Singapore is heading in the right direction, and perhaps it will achieve sustainability in racial equality in the future. But as of right now, I think we still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that wraps up. This wraps up the topic. Or anyone want to say anything else? Okay. Let's move on to the next topic. Yeah. Okay, so now we'll be talking about the issue of gender equality in the sustainability of gender inequality in Singapore. So just for some context, I guess gender inequality has been quite a prevalent issue in the whole on the whole global landscape. And I mean, in some countries, actually many countries, men are often seemingly given more rights than women, right? In countries such as Nepal and all that. So now I want to talk about Singapore, right? Do you think Singapore... Okay, so let's address the question first. Is there gender inequality in Singapore? What do you guys think?
Yes, personally as a feminist myself, right, I've been with the feminist movement since the day one. I believe that feminists, right, are fighting for female rights. And they're noble and they should be honored.
Okay, but I'm asking if like there is...
I believe, right, that in Singapore, right, the females are not given equal opportunity. As you can see, the wage cap, with the recent statistics, right, females are paid less on average than males. How's that fair?
I think... Okay, JB, do you want?
Yeah. Okay, you know, Singapore is a meritocratic country, right? So they judge the pay and your qualification based on how well you do academically. So maybe how the women don't get paid as much as men is due to their ability rather than the gender.
I agree with that.
But how do you explain the lack of opportunities that women have? There's a barrier that's blocking them.
What do you mean by
And
lack
that's
of
sexist stereotypes, right?
But as mentioned, Singapore is indeed a meritocratic society. From education to workplace, I think a lot of it is...
we are, but you're not answering the question. Why is there a wage cap then? Why is there a wage cap? Since Singapore is so meritocratic.
Perhaps the wage gap
Yeah,
is
because
not...
their skills, they do not, I guess they are just not as good as men.
So are you claiming that women has less talents than men?
No, I didn't
Less
say
skilled
I mean, there are so many cases
There are
of
some
women
areas,
having greater positions or being paid more than men because they perform better or like they produce more results and they help they contribute to the company more. Therefore, they are being given more wage.
Besides, right, you cannot say that women have less opportunities because our president is a woman. Her name is Halimah Yacob. She is a Malay woman and she's given full rights and she's the president of Singapore. So how can you say that Singapore never give opportunities.
And
to
I
women
also
when
think
our
from-
president is woman.
And in terms of educational opportunities too, I guess, right? It's meritocratic, right?
Yeah, there are schools like Raffles Girls' School, Nanyang Girls' School. Those are the
Yeah.
elites of the elites. They are specifically for girls even.
Yeah, and a lot of it, and a lot of the opportunities you get is based on your academic results. So yeah.
But using Halimah Yacob and the elite schools as an example, right, it's just taking a small sub data of like hyper successful women, right, and then portraying it as the general woman being more successful than men to disprove the wage gap. But in general, the women are being paid less than men. So why is that? Apart from which workplace sexism?
But you can't really talk about. You can't really. I mean, there could be a wage grab as you say, but you can't really credit it to the fact that they are men and women, right?
Yeah, and right.
Especially since they are given equal opportunities since the start. Unless you are denying that they are not in Singapore society.
Yes, I'm denying that they do not have equal opportunities.
Okay. Explain.
And right, wait, let me say. And maybe because of that, women are using it as an excuse to be lazy and not as hardworking. While men, right, they will.
That is extremely sexist. I would like to say that.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that.
That could make it a reason. It could make it a reason to. For
I know. I want Kaiser to explain more on why, in meritocratic society of Singapore, why women are not being given equal rights. Equal.
No, why are they not paid the same? Why are they not paid the same?
I just explained.
Yeah, why?
No, but
So
Singapore.
we are assuming that the women are more lazy lah. So you're
Not
saying,
more lazy. I guess it's more about the measurement of contributions. Okay, meritocratic. We reward based on your contributions and how much you perform. Your performance, right?
So are you saying that women are less good than men in general?
No, we never say that. Maybe in the area of workforce, women are.
I mean that.
They could be better in other areas. While this percentage they're talking about, maybe men excel better in this area.
Okay, but you're still not answering the question. Why are women being paid less then?
Well, I think by statistically, we can see that women, they actually rather they choose to do like lower paid jobs, while men they choose to explore further and try to go
Can you give an
higher paid
example?
jobs. Like women, right? Like you can tell in the education industry, most teachers are women. While for men, they choose to go for the STEM job. So it usually gives them higher pay in the future. Or women, like even in school, our teachers, most of them are women. They choose to settle for this lower pay jobs. So it's not that our fault that they choose that they have lower wage. It's rather they do not want to take the opportunity to choose like a higher pay job.
But it's because of current sexist stereotypes that women are forced into these kind of labor jobs. Like women are forced into going to these lower paid jobs as the male patriarchy of the society and our government has put in place barriers that prevent women from progressing in jobs other than this one. Yeah.
But yeah, okay, but this is not a systemic kind of thing, man. Do you have any evidence that show that the governments are like putting women down or like forcing them to go into lower paid jobs? Do you have any evidence to prove that?
Yeah, no, but the media always portrays women as like the housewife and that a woman is happy as a housewife and like she doesn't want to earn money and work.
Well, that's true though, because women are only fertile to like a certain age. Like they can only be fertile to maybe like around 40. So they might choose the earlier stages in their career to mother their child, and that can really take a toll on their career, and maybe that causes them to not improve so much in the workforce. While men, they can be fertile all the way to like 80 years old. So that can really maybe because of that they can really focus on their career, and maybe that's why they're doing better.
The fact that we have the concept of gender inequality is because people say that women are not given the same opportunities as men, right? But I say we are given the same opportunities. It's just that there are factors that women have that men do not have that sort of hinders their career.
So should women give? So I think that given that women are like that, right, they should be given higher base pay than males, because there are these barriers in place. Like,
But then that's not an equal opportunity. And
Yeah, you're just putting
when
women
that
higher
happens,
than
that
men
will
down.
have a inequality against the men, no?
Yeah, so are you saying that women deserve it more than men?
But since the patriarchy has been around for decades, the males have stood to benefit for damn long already. So
Well-
I think it's time for the females to benefit. So therefore, I believe, right, because there is a fertile period where women can have children, right? I believe that women should be given higher pays during this period, right, to equalize the wage gap. And if you don't like that, you're sexist.
Well, you are basically contradicting your own point. You are asking for gender equality so that male and female have the same rights. But you're giving female
And
a
that does
higher
not
pay.
make sense. Obviously,
Yeah. Well, so they stay at home to mother their child while
If
the
they're not-
male is working hard.
if they're not given the same
contributing to society.
base pay at the start, then
have
that
higher
is,
pay.
even though from the perspective of you say that's fair. However, from the perspective of the current men working out there, it is quite unfair, and we have to consider that.
And right, how can you use years ago the thinking of men years ago and use it upon them right now? Right now.
Look in the government, the system is mostly run by males who seek to benefit other males.
I
No.
disagree with that. I think in Parliament, right now
We
in
have quite a
Singapore's
lot of
Parliament,
females as well.
we're trying to empower more females into the government, and statistically it has been proven that more females are indeed accepted in the government body. Yeah.
So females, right? They're just making it unfair for males and
And also-
so that females become better.
In the Parliament body, it has been shown that they accept females as well, and I guess that will
May I
just
stop both of you here? I do not appreciate the use of the word females because females are degrading the women as the strong, powerful women as dirty animals that we refer to as female.
Well,
what?
you don't make any sense. If you can ask any man in the world, if you call them a male, they will never feel offended. What's wrong with being called female? You're just being outrageous.
Female, the females are more than just
I
objects.
think that's simply radical. Female does
Yeah.
not have an object of
How
connotation to
dare you
it.
call it radical? You're objectifying
a conno-
females worldwide.
A connotation.
You're generalizing the female population.
God.
I don't think
this
the
guy.
term female in any dictionary of any sort has the connotation that the subject called a female is an object.
Yes.
But we refer to animals as females and male. So I don't think you should be referring to humans as animals.
Well, animals, they're natural, right? And we are actually a form of animal. In fact, we are apes. So, and what's wrong? Why are you saying animals are a bad thing? Maybe you can use male
So
and female
the
to
fact
separate.
that the males are the term of males are also used on animals also say
Yeah,
that
it
males
shows that all are the
animals.
same. It doesn't matter. What?
Okay, I think this point is quite radical, Kaiser.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway,
Back
so I was
to the
saying,
wage gap.
no, back to the government body part.
Yeah.
Saying there are a lot of female officials being accepted into parliament. I think it has been increasing. There's been an increasing trend since in recent years, and furthermore, we have to consider that there are various factors that contribute to the female participation in parliament. It could be their innate ability, or just their leadership. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but how come it's not 50-50 then?
Because there is the other factors that are involved.
Yeah, like skills. And
So are you all
it's
saying that women are less skilled than men?
well, statistically proven. Statistically
It's not about
proven,
we're not having the
men
subject.
are better in politics.
No, I disagree that. I disagree with the fact that you keep on tying it down to are women why isn't it 50-50? Are you saying women have less ability than men? No, perhaps the individual without regard of their gender identity has less ability, and that is fine because everyone has different abilities and everyone excels at different things. So I hate that you tie it down to the identity of gender.
No, but Javier literally said that.
I disagree with
Female are better
JBL.
in politics.
I disagree with JBL.
Javier,
I don't think it
you
should be
say
tied. I don't think it should be tied down to your gender identity.
Yeah, it is somehow statistically proven.
Yeah, no, but that is
I'm not trying to say any bias.
I think in terms of
but I read
statistics,
it and it's statistically
I think
proven.
in terms of statistics, it's quite coincidental that men are the ones
Yeah,
who
because
are.
men have been given more opportunity to represent in politics.
I think
Well, back to my point, women choose not to go to those higher paying jobs.
Okay, then why are fields dominated by men? Like why are the higher paying fields dominated by men?
Fields?
Fields of work. Like the male fields, right? The like doctor, lawyer, all this, right? Why isn't it 50-50? It should be 50-50 one. They should accept more females to make it even.
I think in this workforce, they do accept male and female openly. Like, you see right now, there's so many doctors as well, and so many. And besides, right, the construction workers, most of them are male. In fact, I don't even think I saw a female construction worker trying to build the roads for us. If you're fighting for equality, why not 50% of women and 50% of male do the hard jobs of building our roads? Or like fighting our wars?
Those are dangerous jobs that don't empower female.
Okay, and those are dangerous jobs that don't empower male as well. So you're putting male in
But
there.
the patriarchy already made it so that the males are powerful. So
What do you mean by powerful? As in what?
the system benefits the males.
So you think that it's right that males sacrifice themselves to fight and they get killed in a war and women can just sit at home and cook and clean? While the male do the hard jobs. Do you think that is
But
that
it
is
is
fair?
also the men that started all the wars, what? So they should go and fight the wars, no?
Well, it's not because just a man that starts the war. It's due to an entire country conflict with each other, like wars, for example. So why don't they send some females that if you guys are so strong and empowering
I think
and so powerful, if you
think-
guys are so powerful, why not you guys go on the field and fight
I
for
think
yourself?
we sort of see this trend where for like physical jobs or like jobs that require physical labor, mainly is the males doing it, men doing it, right? And that's was biologically males have more
How
physical
dare you
strength.
say that? How dare you say
It's
that?
a biological.
Females can be just as strong as males.
Yeah, no, but
No,
the strongest man is not.
They cannot.
is
Yeah,
not
biologically, women
the
cannot.
the strongest man is less strong than the strongest. Is more stronger than the strongest woman, right?
But females can be as strong as males.
No,
if
they
you
can't.
wanted to.
Biologically, they cannot.
Yeah, I
Their
think that's
body
a
cannot
simple fact.
secrete enough testosterone that is similar to a male to promote
I
such
think
growth in
this
muscles.
is quite radical. Whatever you're saying, you're trying to fight a
Yes,
universal
it's
fact.
literally biologically, it's a fact. It cannot be changed. Just like you're a woman, you think you can suddenly change to a man? I mean, you can, but it's like a fact.
It's a fact that
How old are you? Like you're 16. You tell me you want to change your age. It's a fact. Woman is weaker than men physically. What
But
can you
women
do?
have accomplished similar feats to males, what?
Like
Like we have run ultra marathons and
okay, and are they faster than male or longer than male? Any feat where female beat male. In sports.
and there are
Any-
also and there's also the fact
females haven't been given enough chance.
and I
to
think it's been
represent.
universally recognized
Yeah.
that I think it's been universally recognized that males are biologically stronger than females, especially as you can see in the Olympics. There are female competitions, there are male competitions. It's segregated, and everyone is accepting of this because it is indeed a universal fact that male physical strength is will always inherently be stronger than
You know why females
female.
haven't accomplished similar feats? Because they haven't been given enough opportunities.
Okay, let me tell you something. Alright.
And especially in
But
the
the fact
Olympics,
that there
right?
is-
In the Olympics, right? The separation of sports, right? Is just to give the males more power and let people watch the male sports more.
Okay, you know what? Let me ask you this, you radical feminist. The Australian women's national team in football, they're professional and trained. How did they lose 7-0 in a football match to a team of 15-year-old boys?
I think
Do you think because they have less opportunity? These boys are studying in school. And this Australian women national team, they are trained 24/7. The only thing they do is play football. And they lose 7-0 to 15-year-old boys. What? Are they...
I think
what
one
examples
example
are there?
should not represent the.
I think the fact
females.
that there is a segregation of competitions already shows that.
But that's just to give the males more power.
It already shows
'Cause
that.
it's to allow people to not watch women's sports.
But it could
Another
be.
issue
But
is
if
women's
if they
sports.
were biologically or if whatever you're arguing is that their physical strength is equal, then there wouldn't be a segregation of competitions. Or it would be a mixed event.
Yeah, no, but they just want to give the males more.
I think
screen time.
I think upon research, it's quite biological. It's a fact, and you can't argue against facts. So
Yeah, man. You can't, man.
you can't argue that the sun doesn't rise from the east. No, it's a universal fact, and therefore, it is the general truth.
Okay, but since men are so strong, then no, I feel women are stronger than men. Actually,
I think we are.
I don't even think that male are actually stronger.
I
Because
think-
females have to go through periods every month.
I think we are kind of digressing from the main point. Our question is Singapore sustainable in why?
No, but I feel it's quite important that we address this situation because it's a global and Singapore situation. About these radical feminists trying to increase the power of women and degrading men in the process.
But males are really very powerful. I feel that.
Also, men are more powerful than women.
No, they have been given more power by the male-dominated system.
But that's not true, man. Like example, we say in Singapore, it's a meritocracy, and yet women just cannot be better, man. Just cannot do well. Why does women not do as well? I said it previously. They choose not to go. They choose to go to those lower paid jobs, while men they choose to go to those higher paid jobs.
They are forced there by the males.
They are forced there by the males. How?
Because more slots are given to males.
When? When was that ever a thing?
It's,
You have to go through the same interview process, the same grading, the same academic score to enter the field.
I think it's quite coincidental that the males have more pay. I don't think you can really tie it down to the fact that they are males or females.
you can replace it. But okay, so anyways, right, I believe it's a systemic problem that will result in the detriment of females and will bring inequality between the genders in Singapore. I think that'll be a discussion for now. We'll have a short podcast break now. Yep. Alright guys, we are back from
We are
the
back
podcast
from
break.
the podcast break. How's everyone doing?
Yeah, good.
Thanks for sticking with us.
So we'll continue where we left off. So before we left, we were talking about the issue of gender inequality in Singapore. So can I bring up the issue? I mean, me being a feminist myself, of increased incidents of females not feeling safe at night when they walk on the streets.
Well, I feel that is definitely an issue, and I'm not on the men's side for this issue. But you cannot, because of some crazy man out there that wants to like molest or rape a woman, put it on the entire male race.
I mean, there are also cases of female raping men.
Yeah, there are females that like they groom the kids and then they rape them as well or whatever as well.
Yeah, but the instance of that males sexually assault or harass females, right, especially in Grab drivers or whatever, right, is quite prevalent in Singapore. Like a lot of people on TikTok say that they get sexually harassed or whatever.
Well, some TikTok cases are not very it's not really shown with the context. They might just assume that the taxi driver, like I saw a TikTok recently. There was this girl,
You can't
and
really-
the guy staring, just looking at her, and then she assumed that he's trying to,
And these are all like
Yeah.
people problem, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you can't really.
I feel only reported cases can be.
You can't
used as
really
evidence.
ask the
You can't really
government
use
to.
TikTok. Yeah.
And you can't. The government can't really help this kind. I mean, there can be laws in place, but I mean, there are already laws in place. There are laws to, punish people for molesting, which is obviously a crime, right?
Yeah, it's very serious.
But there are people who are still doing it, and that goes for any other crime, right?
Yeah.
There are laws in place to punish people who shoplift, but there are still people who shoplift. I think ultimately it just boils down to people, and
You can't really.
it's not
stop
really
such
the
things.
gender equality. Like, doesn't
You
go.
can't use
Personally,
this-
I think that all men should be tracked and monitored at all times so that they do not.
I think it's a violation of their privacy and
Yeah,
their human rights.
And that, but it's to protect the woman, right? Would you rather a woman, an innocent woman, get raped or molested than you monitor a guy?
But that's an invasion of a part of their privacy, and
Yeah, and besides, it's like less than 1%
and that is
of male that does.
Yeah, but-
violation of their human
let's say,
rights. The
right,
basic
let's say-
human right is that they have the freedom to move
Yeah.
around, right?
Let's say, right?
By monitoring
I saw
and-
this analogy on TikTok, right? Let's say, right, there are 99 droplets, right? and one of them is bad, right? Will you still eat the chocolates?
That does not even make sense. But
Like if one of them is poisoned, then they will all mix together. Will you take the chance and eat the chocolates?
that has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, so it's not all men one, but you should fear all men because
But it shouldn't.
it only takes one bad one.
But the idea that you're suggesting is simply out of this world is just
There
ridiculous.
are many good men out there, and what you're doing,
you
you're
shouldn't be
invading their
tracking.
freedom.
It's
Their
a-
freedom.
their right as a human to
Yeah, human rights.
be tracked. And to monitor someone is a clear violation of their privacy, right? And that's like,
Yeah, so that's not
Yeah,
very
a lot.
right. Yeah, it's not nice of you.
I'm sure a lot of men out there will not be okay there,
Yeah.
especially you yourself included.
But if you're not doing anything wrong, then what is there to be guilty about?
I mean, there are some
There are
embarrassing
private moments
there are
that
private
you want to
moments,
have.
embarrassing stuff that you have that you don't want to share publicly, and it may not always be illegal,
It's your alone time.
right?
You want that to be recorded.
I just feel like that's quite radical. Monitoring is a clear violation of every human right possible out there. So unless you're not human, then I don't think tracking is the solution to the issue.
I think
Okay, so now that we have talked about this, right? So let me bring us back to this question. Do you think Singapore is sustainable in gender equality, and also is it even present in Singapore? You want to answer?
After hearing the discussion today, right, I believe that my mind has been changed, and I believe that Singapore is a lot better society, even though there are some instances of gender inequality present that are not systematic.
Okay, I still agree that there is some of it still present, but however, I think the issue is quite exaggerated by the radical feminists. I think it can be downplayed because in the meritocratic system of Singapore, I think gender equality it does not have that much of an impact on the status quo of women and men. Yeah, so I think Singapore has done well in this fact in this part and it's quite sustainable in achieving, and it's quite successful in achieving sustainability in gender equality in Singapore. JB, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I agree with everyone. I feel that gender equality still can be improved, but that doesn't mean that female can abuse their rights and try to downplay men. Yeah.
So I think this concludes our talk about the issue of gender sustainability and gender inequality in Singapore. So now let's move on to our last topic, which is the sustainability of aging population in Singapore. As you all know, like Singapore is an aging population, right?
Yeah,
And
right.
obviously there will be issues coming out from this. There will be stereotypes, ageism, for example, right? And like the amount of working adults will also gradually decrease. Even though right now it's not to a significant degree, but however it will happen if Singapore continues going down this trend. So obviously it's an issue. Obviously, like I have presented these issues. So do you think Singapore has done anything to like try and nerf these issues, like sort of like make it less bad?
So I think the efforts of our government are pretty present, with our government's effort to increase the birth rate by encouraging couples to marry. Even though the government has experienced limited success in encouraging people to marry and have kids, right? At least they try with Romance Singapore, and their efforts to like the baby bonus and the BTO flats.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that will help to ensure that the aging population is not. Help to ensure that Singapore doesn't remain an aging population. I guess by increasing the amount of birth rates. But that is a long-term solution. It won't take place like overnight. So anyway, Javier, do you have any other stuff to add on? Like, what other things did Singapore do to nerf the issue of gender? No, sorry, not gender equality. Of the aging population.
What in general or like in work?
Like what has Singapore done?
Singapore has like increased the retirement age, so that once the older people reach the retirement age, they retire, and so the younger people can like go in there and take over.
Wait, no. You mean like they increase the retirement age, so like also the older. So despite being an aging population, then the impact won't be so bad, right? Because right now, if there's less the retirement age is like less. Like let's say you can retire at like 65, right?
Yeah.
Then there'll be less working adults in the workplace because it's an aging population. So if you increase you're saying if you increase the retirement age, then there will be more working adults, is it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so now that you all have presented what Singapore or some things that Singapore has done about the aging population, then do you guys think it's enough? Like whatever you all have said, the increase in retirement age and your encouragement of increased birth rate, do you think it's enough?
Yes, I think currently it's quite enough.
Like elaborate or something. Elaborate.
Despite having like a aging population, we still.
What? Wait, Javier, say.
Government usually like doing like baby bonuses and like marriage and all the incentives, and it seems like Singapore is doing well in aging population. And it's also due to Singapore being a meritocratic country, so those older people they like improve their portfolios and their academic results so that they can get like a higher pay.
Okay.
So I feel it's quite fair.
Oh yeah, and that brings me to another point. Like Singapore has like My Skills Future, right, which also caters to the older generation. So even though they graduate already, they can still learn new skills, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's quite useful. And Kaiser, do you think it's enough? What Singapore is doing?
Definitely, I think Singapore's incentives one of the most best lah. Cause in many of the first world countries today, right, couples choose not to have kids, right? And Singapore's measures are quite effective already. So I believe that if Singapore can implement these measures in the long term with a higher success rate, right, then it'll be good lah.
Yeah, and talking about Singapore's like reputation, right, the medical facilities are also quite good, right? Like compared to other countries.
I think aging population will definitely put a strain on the.
Yeah. But Singapore has.
But Singapore is well prepared for it.
Yeah, the healthcare system is really good, and I think it can cater to the aging population. So, in summary, I think we believe that Singapore is more than sustainable in terms of catering to the aging population and dealing with the issues of that may be presented by the aging population. So I think that wraps up our verdict on this case. I have anything else to add? Do you all have anything else to add, Kaiser and Javier?
No, I think that'll be all for me.
Javier?
No, that'll be all for me.
Okay. Yeah, that wraps up our podcast.
Thanks for listening.
And
Goodbye.
Goodbye.